Hey there, it's David H. Lawrence the 17th, and in this episode of the VO Heroes podcast, I want to talk to you about something that we as human beings have engaged in since we've been categorized as human beings, going back to the caveman days, cavewoman days. When we don't know something, we hate that, and we make stuff up. So today, I'm going to give you 5 words you can use to really test if something you think is true, and we'll do that in just a moment. So, how many times have you thought to yourself, I wonder how they do that? I wonder how that happens. I wonder what process goes into doing something like that. The reason I mention this is I was just on a conference call with some fellow union members, and we were talking about how absolutely shredding it was to do audiobooks, how grueling it was, and how it must be a horrible existence and all that stuff. And I used the phrase that I'm going to share with you today when I pushed back a little bit and I said, I get this all the time. And so my question for you is this. And when we don't know something, we make something up. We think, oh, it must be that way. That seems to make sense to me. It's reasonable to assume that that's what's going on. But when you really, really, really are presented with something that you think to yourself, yeah, I'm not so sure that what you're saying is true. Here's a great phrase to use, taken from Napoleon Hill. And it's one that I think we should either say in our own heads or at least say out loud every so often just to get used to it. And that phrase is when somebody says something to you and you want to find out how they found out about it, why they think that, whether or not they have any sort of backup for it. The phrase is, how do you know that? Not said accusatorily, not said in a way to be provocative, but just, oh, how do you know that? So when somebody says, you have to have a really, really expensive microphone to do voiceover. Huh. How do you know that? Well, I heard that. Okay. Did you check that out with people who do voiceover? And I mean, how you then go from there to figuring out whether or not they actually do know what they're talking about is up to you, and that's an art form. But the idea of just simply making that question part of your lexicon, right? Audiobooks are grueling. They take 20 hours to do 1 hour of an audiobook. Huh? How do you know that? Or we all know millions of performance myths. That you got to have a demo, got to have an agent. Those are the first 2 things that you should have as a voiceover talent or as a performer. Okay, how do you know that? And that's when you really start to dig in and find out if what they're saying is their way of saying, I think this is what it should be, as opposed to, this is a statement, it's true, be done with it, right? So how you say that makes all the difference in the world. And saying it more often will really help you determine what makes somebody consider something truthful, fact, absolutely irrefutable, right? So the 5 words are, how do you know that? And if you ask them in a way that generates conversation and leads to understanding, that's great. You don't want to say it in a way that makes people think you're a jerk. And I certainly have made that mistake when I first learned about this. Oh yeah? How do you know that? So how do you know that? Gently and probing and asking. So I wonder if this has worked for you. I wonder if this is something that you've used in the past to determine whether or not what you're hearing from somebody is actually truth or just their supposition. And I'd love to know in the comments below if you want to share with me what that whole thing is all about. If you want to be on my list and hear more of these ways to do better at your job and better at performing, I'd love to have you. Just slide down to the bottom of this page on voheroes.com, or go there if you're not there now and engage in the conversation there and fill out the form. Get on the list. We'd love to have you. I'm David H. Lawrence the 17th. I thank you so much for watching. And here's how you know that. I'm grateful, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.